saying is, well, that's great, 5 counties, but isn't this really a Humboldt story? Or a Del Norte story or something like that? It doesn't really apply to us necessarily. Well, as you can see, we actually did ask the Employment Development Department to give us a sense of how this played out in different counties. They couldn't give us more information because, again, it's restricted. But you can see, okay, tell us, we know that the average is 53%, right, for the entire region in terms of the share of private sector wages in these 6 areas. Tell us what it is in different counties. And you can see there's quite a similarity, but even Mendocino is 58% of your private sector wages. So you and Del Norte actually are more dependent, in a sense, on these 6 areas than, say, Trinity, where you're getting more of your private sector wages out of these than Trinity. But you can see it's fairly close for most of them. This is not just a one-county story or anything like that. Similarly, you can see, we then said, you know, out of 100% of what you have in the 6 across the 6 targets, how does it distribute? So you've got 29% of all your employment in those 6 target areas. 29% is in healthcare, diversified healthcare. Now you can see that Del Norte has 50% of its target component. So for them, this is a more important, probably more important for them than maybe for you. You had the second most in manufacturing behind Humboldt. So there may be some reason to collaborate with Humboldt around this sort of niche manufacturing, because you may have, there may be some more connectivity there. And you can see it plays out differently. You've got much more than specialty ag and food as part of your 6. Now that's again maybe not surprising because of the wine industry and other kinds of specialty food pieces. But you can see there's a spread. Everybody's got a slightly different portfolio, if you will, across the 6, which you would expect. All right, so let's shift gears a little bit here and talk about occupations now. And what we've seen before is this is just employment, industry employment, which gives us a certain lens into the economy. This is another lens into the economy where we actually ask businesses, well, how many people in different occupational categories do you hire? It's based on surveys. And then they're able to tell us what kind of the changes were. What we haven't been able to do before is look backward, and we just be able to point in time that says, okay, here's your occupational distribution. For the first time, you're seeing information that actually goes back to 2003. 3, 4, 5, 6, okay? So over this period, where was the distribution of job growth in the top 50 growing occupations in this region? And how did it distribute? Well, the good news story is that almost half was in mid-wage occupations. So you weren't creating just lots of low-skilled jobs. You certainly were creating some, and you're creating some higher wage, but there was a lot that was in that mid-wage occupational area. So that's interesting. That tells you something that's, so what else do we want to know? Now, let's merge these 2 concepts together, which is, wouldn't it be great to know, in those areas that are growing the best for us, those 6 targets of opportunity, where are the fastest growing occupations? How do they play out within those targets of opportunity? And sure enough, 2/3 of those fastest growing occupations are within the targets of opportunity. Now, that should happen. Now, there's some outside it too. But 2/3 of those 50 fastest growing occupations are in your fastest growing industries. That's a good place to be. That's the sweet spot for people. You want to be in a growing occupation in a growing industry, right? So that's interesting. That gives you some more information about, okay, that we've got some opportunities here. Now, let's take it another step. We've been talking about the past. Let's look at the future. The LMID does projections about occupations in the future. Now, I'm not entirely supportive of methodologies that focus on projections. I think there's lots of problems when you get some projections. Very few, if any, futurists actually predicted the commercialization of the internet in 1990. So that'll tell you something about how well we predict what's going to happen, because there's transformation, things we can barely imagine that are transform the whole situation. However, there are some things, some assumptions you can make based on demographics, based on, in this case, based on the retirement age, likely retirement of people who are currently in some of these occupations. What is interesting here, a couple things. First of all, you notice we do have a lot of lower wage job openings that you will see. These are annual job opening projections at different levels from over a 10-year period from 2004 to 2014, okay? Let's just look at it just broadly. Quite a few at the lower wage level, under 25K. But a significant amount at the mid-wage level, a smaller amount at the higher wage level. The other thing you notice is that a huge proportion of these jobs are not new jobs. They are replacement jobs. And you can look at this as, oh my goodness, there is a freight train coming down the track. Because these are all your machinists. These are all your people who are now in their late 50s who are saying, there's nobody coming up behind me. I'm not training anybody. And yet this could be a huge problem. Or we could see this as an enormous opportunity. And maybe even a once in a generation opportunity to get people into some really good career jobs. But it's going to require some serious training, serious education of people of a younger generation that may be in these